Another piece of bad news for the Canadian real estate market this week. The house price index, something put together by Teranet and by National Bank, came out with its worst monthly decline ever on record. Now, this is something that's put together since 1999. We'll be going through a little bit of the data set behind it to give you an inclination of what different regions throughout the country are suffering the most. We'll also be discussing what the relevance is if this data goes all the way back to 1999. We all remember the great financial crisis with the subprime mortgages. And then we'll be discussing, amidst all the pain, we still have the most brains. Okay, so if this is your first time here, welcome. My name's Nick. This is Ways to Wealth. Before we get into the video, huge favor, huge ask. If you learned something new, or you get some value out of the video, hit that like button for me. I definitely appreciate that. And if you haven't already, please consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on for content similar to this. We do a video every single Sunday, so don't forget to come stop by the channel. Appreciate all of your support. It should be no surprise that the housing market in Canada is starting to slow. We've covered it numerous amounts of times, but now the data sets that are coming out are starting to kind of reconfirm what we are saying. And we start with the Teranet National Bank National Composite House Price Index, and it fell 3.1% from August to September. This is the largest monthly decline on record since the index began in 1999, and it shattered the previous record of actually last month's decline of 2.4%. Now that does take no seasonal adjustments into play. The next one does, and we can see here after seasonal adjustments, it fell 2.0% from August to September, and that equaled what the last monthly's drop was. But basically what we're trying to say here is that the market is starting to fall off. Now, does it fall off the cliff? Does it kind of stabilize from here? Nobody knows. It's obviously going to be a huge factor of interest rates and immigrants coming in, housing availability, etc., etc., etc. I'm not able to answer that right off the hop, but let's take a look at what the impact is on a big scale. So we'll go down and we'll take a look at the various locations across Canada and just how much the real estate market has gone down in certain areas. So we see here that Alberta has relatively come out unscathed, being 0% down from the peak. They've kind of been the last area to really benefit. We continue to go down in British Columbia. Abbotsford Mission has been the biggest decliner, down almost 18% from the peak in April 2022. And moderate declines in Kelowna and Vancouver. We'll scroll down to Ontario to see where some of the most heavily hit sectors are within the Ontario region. The one that sticks out to me the most is Peterborough. It is down almost, just over the 23% mark, and the peak was in May of 2022. Kitchener down almost 15%, London 15%, Oshawa 16%. Guelph, Hamilton, double digits down, and the peaks were back in that April to May period. Now, with that being said, how do we compare to the great financial crisis? This is obviously where we started to have challenges with subprime mortgages, but in reality, it was more of the US. So we see here that the Canadian real estate prices are falling faster than they did in the financial crisis. So obviously, like we just said, the US definitely felt the brunt of it more. We did fall off here, and let's figure out just by how much. The home prices are falling faster than they did during the GFC, and prices have dropped 7% since the May peak over the same period. And during the GFC, they bottomed at 9.2% lower. At a current rate of decline, a little over one more month than that, we could see prices decline now more than they did in the great financial crisis. So that is definitely an interesting point. Canada has definitely had a good banking system, a good measure to avoid what happened in the US. but we are starting to decline at a faster rate than we did then. And the housing prices were the big concern at that moment, and definitely mortgages. So something to leave in our back pockets to show that something is on the fringe of breaking. But with all of that being said, the house price index falling at its fastest pace since 1999 when they started it, all of these different regions kind of falling off of a cliff, comparing this decline to the great financial crisis, we still have the most amount of cranes in North America. And to take it one step further, Toronto's high-rise construction is mostly residential. RLB counted 130 residential cranes in the city, meaning that more than half is residential. So although we have a situation where housing prices are falling off the cliff, people are struggling to keep up with their mortgages, we've seen declines so great, so vast, so quick, people are still building. So it's kind of a yin and yang situation, and it's very confusing to a lot of different people. So, I'd like to know what your thoughts are. Do we continue to see pain in the housing market? And if we continue to see pain, why do you think we're still building? And if you think that we're going to kind of stabilize and stay around this rate for housing prices, what do you think will be the next step for investors? Should we start looking at buying? Let me know what you think below, because this kind of situation that I've described today is a yin and a yang, and kind of where I'm torn about where the housing market is. I believe that we could probably see lower prices from here, especially with the Bank of Canada set to raise the interest rates on October 26th. I need your help. What are you thinking? And if you're still here with me, please don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I appreciate all of your support. I hope you all have a great week in the markets. Happy trading.